Welcome to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the future of radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. Today is Sunday, July 8th, 2018, and we are live tonight. We have a lot to talk about. Uh, it's been a very, very busy week, a lot going on this past week, and we have a jam-packed show, all right? So we're going to be joined by Queen Taese of the Liberated Minds Black Homeschool and Education Expo. We'll be joined with her in the second segment of the show. We have seen videos of African Americans having the police called on them, and that continued this week. We saw some continuations of that. So we're going to talk about white people keep calling the police on Black people and are losing their jobs, receiving backlash and public shame. White people keep calling the police on African Americans and are losing their jobs, receiving backlash and public shame, calling them for innocuous things that white people do all the time and don't get the police called on them about. We just saw a situation where an African American woman living in an affluent area, police were called because the man who was the worked with the homeowners association and he headed up the pool patrol. Apparently, he thought she didn't belong there. Okay. Then we saw a situation where young brothers a couple weeks ago, 12 years old, mowing the lawn, had police called on him regarding mowing the lawn as well. We saw a situation where this young African American girl, 8 years old, had the police called on her because she was selling water. And a woman said that she was selling water without a permit. Okay, so all types of crazy things like this, right? So we're going to talk about that in the first segment, and then we'll be joined by Queen Taese. The Liberated Minds Black Homeschool and Education Expo is coming up. It is coming up next weekend, Friday, July 13th through Sunday, July 15th in Atlanta. I'll be there all 3 days, and I'm presenting on Sunday. So we'll get more information from Queen Taese about that. We had her last week. We have her back on this week. And then also the news came out this past week that the Trump administration is reversing President Obama's policy when it came to the education department dealing with affirmative action in school admissions, okay, for college admissions, all right? So there was a lot, we saw a lot of coverage of this, and we know that the Trump administration has been hostile to civil rights in general, okay? And this is just another example of this. Now, this is a policy change. This is not changing a law. This is not a ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court. However, people fear that with Trump announcing his nomination to the U.S. Supreme Court, if this person is confirmed, the U.S. Senate is 50-49 Republicans because Senator John McCain is recovering from cancer. If by chance this person is nominated and confirmed, then they could do away with affirmative action when it comes to college admissions if a case goes before the U.S. Supreme Court. All right. So, yeah, a lot of civil rights groups you heard this past week on politics on Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton here on 910 AM the Superstation. He's on Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You heard them talk about this as well. There's been a lot of coverage and a lot of fear around this also. And then we know this past week, July 2nd, was the anniversary of the signing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which unfortunately a lot of our people still don't understand. Civil Rights Act of 1964. Okay, so we'll talk some about that as well. And then, we've seen new developments when it comes to the immigrants coming in through the Mexican border, some seeking political asylum, some not. The undocumented immigrants, we see that the time is about to run out for the Trump administration to reunite families. They had no intentions, really, no plan to reunite them in the first place. It's just a huge debacle. They asked for an extension, right? As of last Saturday, there were 2,047 children still separated from their parents. That number has not gone down significantly at all since last week Saturday, right? But what is left out a lot of times in this discussion, and we talked about this some last Sunday, is the plight of Black immigrants, the plight of African immigrants, Caribbean immigrants, right? Black immigrants remain a silent minority, but are usually the first to be deported. Black immigrants remain a silent minority, but are the first to be deported. Okay, and then there was an article from the Wall Street Journal this past week that dealt with the money that's being made on detaining the immigrants coming through the Mexican border. The money that's being made. Trump's immigrant detention plans benefit private prison operators. Trump's immigrant detention plans benefit private prison operators like Core Civic and Geo Group. Isn't it interesting that Core Civic and Geo Group, two of the largest owner-operators of privatized prisons, just so happened to donate almost $600,000 to Donald Trump's presidential campaign? They have huge contracts detaining immigrants, and they're making a lot of money off of this. Isn't that just a coincidence? Isn't that just an amazing coincidence? Who would have thought? And in March of 2016, Donald Trump is interviewed by Chris Matthews on Hardball on MSNBC, and he says that privatized prisons seem to work very well and save a lot of money. Both are wrong. Both are wrong. Isn't it interesting? Isn't it just a coincidence that Trump reversed President Obama's initiative not to renew federal prisons for privatized prisons that was announced in August of 2016? Isn't it just a coincidence that Trump has reversed that and is renewing private contracts with privatized prisons for federal prisoners? And then Geo Group and Core Civic used to be called Corrections Corporation of America, the largest owner-operator of privatized prisons in the country. These two just so happened to donate almost $600,000 to Donald Trump's campaign. And then when Trump reversed the initiative for President Obama, the stock price of Core Civic went up about 148%. And the stock price of Geo Group went up about 98%. These are publicly traded stocks. Just a coincidence. Yeah, like about 150 Russians that keep popping up. Just a coincidence. Nothing to see. Nothing to see here. No coordination. No conspiracy. It's just a coincidence. So Trump's immigrant detention program benefits private prison operators. Who would have thought? And then we saw this weekend, Saturday, I think it was Saturday, we saw in Chicago thousands of people protesting, demanding an end to gun violence. Now, I hope Fox News covers this as much as they cover the gun violence in Chicago, because they keep saying, they protest. When people protest about police killings, they say, why don't you do anything about black on black crime? Well, it was you who created the term black on black crime in the first place. Because when white people kill each other, you don't call that white on white crime. 83% of white people who are killed each year are killed by other white people. You don't call that white on white crime. So where did this term black on black crime came up? That was created by the white controlled media. But they say, oh, you don't say anything when black people kill each other. Yes, we do. You just don't cover it because it doesn't fit your agenda. So hopefully the Fox News network, where Bill Shine used to be the co-president, and he was pushed out because of him mishandling the sexual harassment allegations that caused Roger Ailes, the founder of Fox News, to resign. And Roger Ailes died last year, a year before, age 77 years old. Bill Shine is going to be the new White House communications director. For another guy who has 19 sexual harassment and allegations against him, things like this, named Donald John Trump, just happens to be the president. And Bill Shine was good friends with Roger Ailes, and he was a co-producer of Sean Hannity's show. Sean Hannity is good friends with Donald Trump. They have late night phone conversations. Vultures of a feather flock together, don't they? So protest draws thousands who are demanding more be done about Chicago's gun violence. I wonder if Trump's going to tweet about this. Okay, so we'll deal with that tonight on the African History Network show. All right, hope everyone's doing well. Now, remember at the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you have been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. When you control the radius of a man's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. All right. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can take advantage of the weekend sale we have, the 6 DVD Black Panther bundle packs on sale. The $45, regularly $75. We have the online course bundle pack as well. I get 10 of my online courses also. We have information about the Black Homeschooling Conference coming up also July 13th through the 15th. Okay. All right. I want to jump into this first clip here. All right. This deals with white people keep calling the police on Black people and are losing their jobs and businesses based upon it. So you may have seen the video of ID Adam Bloom, who is asked. He didn't think that this African-American woman lived there in the complex, and she was there swimming with her child on July 4th, their little boy, July 4th, and he asked for ID and things like this. Let's go to this first clip here.
She's Alex Perez.
Okay.
I'm just here with my baby. Cell phone video, now gone viral, shows Adam Bloom questioning whether Jasmine Edwards and her son are neighborhood residents and entitled to use the private community pool.
Where does it say that I have to show an ID to use my pool, my own pool?
IDs are not required to enter the pool, but Bloom, who is the Housing Association's pool chairman, insists and calls police.
We have a resident or a non-resident that's at the pool that refuses to leave.
Edwards is a resident and informs the officers she has a key card to access the pool.
We're going to shut this and prove to this gentleman that this turns green real quick. Turns green and it unlocks. There you go, sir. All right. Perfect.
The incident, just the latest in a string of disturbing episodes of white people calling the cops on innocent Black people for everyday activities. A kid mowing the lawn, barbecuing in the park. Adam Bloom has since resigned from the pool committee, and his employer announced on Twitter he's been let go.
In a statement through his attorney, Bloom says he first approached Edwards at the request of another resident. He says his actions were not racially motivated and is deeply regretful if they appear to be.
Okay, so that was from ABC News, all right? And also check out the article from New York Post, white man loses job after calling police on Black family at pool, okay? New York Post, July 6, 2018. Now, Adam Bloom was later fired from his job at Sunoco. The company announced on, is SONOCO, the company announced on Friday, we are aware of a terrible incident involving the actions of one of our employees outside of the workplace. The well-documented incident, which involves activities at a neighborhood pool over the 4th of July, does not reflect the core values of our company, and the employee involved is no longer employed by the company in any respect. Our core values at Sunoco are built on dignity and respect for all, and we do not condone discrimination of any kind, inside or outside of the workplace. I'm not sure how his employer got involved in this. He wasn't wearing his work uniform, anything like that. But what's interesting when you watch the video, and AtlantaBlackStar.com has an article about this. That statement is actually in the article. White man calls police on Black family using neighborhood pool, demands proof. Woman lives there. Jasmine records this, okay, and she after it's very verified by the officer that her key card works, she asks him like 3 times, do you want to apologize? He just ignores her, okay? Just like I'm ignoring this break. No, just kidding. All right, we're about to go to break. Hey, stay tuned. You listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM. Superstation Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right. Okay, guys, we'll be back. Guys, we'll be back in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere. We're back in 2 minutes. Got to take a 2-minute break. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Okay, and that's just the that's just the tip of the iceberg right there. All right, and we're seeing more and more of this take place. Okay, so you have to, so part of this is that Trump has emboldened white people. Some white people has emboldened those who have xenophobia, who have a fear of people who are different, has emboldened them, right, to do stupid things. But Trump does not see, he can't be fired from his job. He can be impeached, but he can't be fired from his job. Okay, so he is insulated more. Now people around him are taking heat. Okay, Homeland Security, the Director of Homeland Security, Kirstjen Nielsen, Stephen Miller, even Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, I saw 2 instances when Mitch McConnell was confronted by protesters, all right? So Trump is more insulated. These people out here who are doing stupid things, who may or may not be Trump supporters, but are white people, right? They're getting fired, okay? They're not insulated like Trump is, okay? So, and we're seeing more and more incidences of just African Americans just doing nothing, okay, being harassed. All right, stand by. I gotta make a quick call here. I call Taese. She's on. Stand by. We'll be on in just a minute here. Okay, because we got Queen Taese coming up in 8 minutes. Stand by, everybody. Stand by, guys. Come on. All right, we'll be back in about 30 seconds. How's everybody doing? Who we have here on YouTube? We've got Queen, Jet, Sapphire. Okay, calling number is 313-778-7600. That's the calling number. You ready? Okay. Okay. Hello? Hey, call in at 9:30. Call in in 7 minutes. I already text you the information. Thanks. Thanks, bye. I have a guest. She's gonna call in at 9:30. Queen Taese. All right. Ready? All right, let's go. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, July 8th, 2018. All right. Shout out to everybody watching us on Facebook and YouTube. On YouTube, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP on YouTube and Facebook, the 910 AM Superstation Facebook page, and then also the African History Network on Facebook as well. Okay. All right. So right before the break, we were talking about the case out of talking about the case dealing with Adam Bloom and a sister by the name of Jasmine Edwards. And this took place on July 4th. Okay. And Adam Bloom was a member of the Glen Ridge Homeowners Association. And he said that at the request of another resident there in their complex, they were all at the pool. This person thought that Jasmine Edwards, who's African American, probably one of the only ones there, was not a resident. Okay, and police were called. Just idiotic, and come to find out she was a resident. This took place in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Okay, it was the Winston-Salem police who were called. All right, and Adam Bloom has since lost his job also. Okay, and let's go to the second clip here from ABC Good Morning America with an update and a response from Adam Bloom's attorney.
Going viral. The man who called police on a black woman he suspected did not belong at the community pool.
Now, she calls it a case of racial profiling, and now we're learning what his lawyer has to say about it all. ABC's Zachary Keith joins us with all the details. Zachary, good morning.
Dan and Paula, good morning. You're right. It feels like we've been here before. That call to police over pool access has been released. And now the attorney for the guy who's at the center of this whole thing is saying his client is getting death threats and had to move his family from their home for safety. This morning, the man at the center of this pool confrontation has gone viral, now out of a job, as police reveal more about how it all went down.
Where does it say that I have to show an ID to use my pool, my own pool?
This is Adam Bloom confronting Jasmine Edwards and her son. The mom and son hoping to enjoy their private community pool in North Carolina on the 4th of July, just like everyone else. But Bloom has serious questions over whether they should be there.
I'm just here with my baby, swimming. And I understand.
Things escalate quickly when Bloom, pool chairman for the Homeowners Association, calls police.
We have a non-resident that refuses to leave. We'd be happy to have her here if she just shows some identification.
IDs aren't required for the pool. Miss Edwards says she was targeted because of her race.
I feel this is racial profiling.
But Bloom's lawyer says the video is incomplete and misleading. Bloom approached Edwards at the request of another resident, and that Bloom is deeply regretful as his enforcement of the rules appeared to be racially motivated. What the video does prove is that Edwards is a resident.
Prove to this gentleman that this turns green real quick. Turns green and it unlocks. There you go, sir. All right.
Do you want to apologize, Adam, for what you did?
This just the latest incident showing white people calling the cops on black folks for doing everyday things. Here, a woman called police on a young girl for selling water. And in this video, a woman called police on a group having a cookout. Back in North Carolina, Bloom lost his day job and resigned from his post with the HOA. Dan, I feel like we're having these conversations week in and week out.
We do talk about this quite a bit.
Challenging to confront this issue of race in this country. And if you look at this particular issue in terms of swimming pools, there's a long legacy of that in this country. A little research will show that the fight to keep pools segregated was even stronger than that for public schools in some cases. So, you know, this is nothing new on some level.
Such a painful topic. Zachary, we
Thanks,
appreciate it.
Zachary.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so that was Good Morning America as well. Check out the, go to abcnews.com. I want to give you the name of those two clips there. But you can go to abcnews.com and just search for video shows white man racially profiling black woman son at pool. Video shows white man racially profiling black woman son at pool. Okay, they have two good clips there from ABC News. One from ABC News and another from ABC News Good Morning America. So you see, Adam lost his job, right? But what's interesting now, the white male police officer who was there, that's the one who was doing the talking. He was cool, and I watched the video that was posted. Is about 4 minutes. Okay, so in this clip that I just played, you just hear an excerpt of the video that Jasmine actually recorded. All right, I watched the full video that she recorded, which is about 4 minutes and some change. It's in the article from AtlantaBlackStar.com. In that clip, she asked Adam about 3 times, Adam, do you want to apologize? Do you want to apologize? He just walks past her, just ignores her, things like that. So it's interesting that now, after he's been fired, now his attorney says he regrets it, this appeared to be racial profiling or what have you. When you were given the opportunity right then and there, after the police officer showed you that her car did work and gave access to the pool, therefore she's a resident, you were asked 3 times, did you want to apologize? You just ignored her. So it's interesting now how you are all regretful and sorry and, things like this. I just find that hard to believe. I think he's sorry he got caught. I think that's what he's sorry about. Okay. Let's go to the phone lines quickly. Let's go to Glenn, line 1. Hey, Glenn, welcome to the African History Network show. How you doing tonight?
Thank you for answering the call, for picking up the phone. ABC News, is that Ethiopian Broadcast Corporation? Is that your source?
At ABC News, that's American Broadcasting Company. Don't they get that where you live?
Not Ethiopian Broadcast Corporation?
No. You have the wrong show, Glenn. Thanks for calling in. See, it's interesting when we deal with facts and evidence. See, Glenn called into the previous show. He calls into my show with this nonsense. He has no facts. See, this is how some white people act, right? When they deal with African Americans who they know are intellectually superior to them, then they make ignorant ass comments like he just made. That's what people like him do. So that's why I cut him off, because I don't have time to waste with people like that. Yeah, go research this information, Glenn. If you can't read, have somebody read it to you. Okay, so let's deal with this next story. 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600. Okay. And Ethiopia is spelled with the E, Glenn, not an A. See, this is what you do. See, if you let a white supremacist talk long enough, he'll prove to you how ignorant he is. Okay. Ethiopia is spelled with the E. Okay. Glenn, just so you know that. All right. So you have this other incident, right? And this involved an African-American woman who is in the state legislature, right? In Oregon, all right? Now, Oregon has a long history of discriminating against African-Americans, okay? But NBCnews.com has an article, #WhileBlack, #WhileBlack. And this hashtag has been trending, #WhileBlack. Calling police on Black people become teachable moments for law enforcement, #WhileBlack. Calling police on Black people become teachable moments for law enforcement, all right? So we saw this story this past week. I know Alex Went interviewed the sister, last name Bynum. And then I know that Ali Velshi on MSNBC interviewed her as well. Janelle Bynum, okay, speaks out after cops call. So this turned out well, okay? She wasn't abused or anything like that. She even took a selfie with the police officer because he realized, okay, look, something's wrong here, okay? So, I mean, I should not have been called for this, all right? But Oregon State Representative Janelle Bynum spoke with Ali Velshi on MSNBC about a now viral incident, a now viral video, when police were called on her for acting quote unquote suspiciously while she was out canvassing in her own district. Now she's an elected official, okay? She's a state representative for the state of Oregon. I admit they don't have many African-American representatives. They don't have many African-Americans if you understand the history of Oregon. Okay, they drastically discriminated against them to make sure they didn't have any. All right, that's the history of Oregon. Okay, I'm not blaming the people who are there today for that previous history. All right, now I'm not exactly sure what they did to change it, but that's the history of Oregon. Okay, so you have this incident that took place as well. So if we look at the article, then we'll go to the phone lines in just a minute here. Hey, do we have Queen Taese on the line? Oh, hell, let's go to Queen Taese right here. Hey, Queen Taese, welcome to the African History Network show. Welcome back. How you doing, sister?
I'm doing excellent. How are you?
All right, all right. Okay, so look, we know it's coming up in a few days, Friday, July 13th through Sunday, July 15th, the 7th annual Liberated Minds Black Homeschool and Education Expo in Atlanta. So tell us, so what can we expect this year?
You can expect more contact workshops, more phenomenal presentations and training. So this is about us really being efficient at what we're doing in terms of educating our homes. You can expect amazing people who are traveling from across the country, from around the globe. Amazing African people who want to come together for the greatness of our children and our African families. You can expect a host of awesome and amazing, not presenters, but businesses, entrepreneurs, vendors with everything for us, by us, from Black books, curriculum, resources, a little bit of everything. So it's an amazing and a powerful experience, for everyone who comes, including our children as well.
Absolutely. Well, I know we have 3 days. So Friday is the welcoming ceremony, the intro. So what's taking place Friday?
Today we will have a full lineup, and I want to share that with you too, because I know you come out and you do your vending. We're opening up for the first time the opportunity to vend on Friday. So Friday is usually more intimate, but we're actually going to have vendors there where people can purchase the product, and then as well as all vegan buffet, which is complimentary to the people.
Right.
Usually, this is a family celebration vibe. We talk with each other, we deal with each other, we talk about the purpose and the mission for the weekend. That's an awesome tone for why we're there. And in addition, we also will have we'll be showing snippets from our elementary genocide, Brother Raheem Shabazz.
Yeah, I think you're gonna show part 3, right? I think you're gonna show snippets of. Go ahead.
We're gonna actually we're going back to part 1. We're going back to the foundation because many people haven't seen it as of yet.
Okay.
And then from that point, we will go into a panel discussion, a short panel discussion about the film and about solutions. So everything here at the Expo is solution-based. We were clear what the problem is. So everything here is solution-based. We'll be talking about that as well, and also how to benefit and maximize your experience at the Expo this year.
Okay, how to benefit and maximize your experience at the Expo this year. All right. Well, okay, so I actually get in on Wednesday, so I'll be there a couple of days earlier. But so I'll be there Friday, and then I talked to Raheem when I was in Atlanta for the Black Home for Juneteenth, and he said he wanted me on the panel. He told me about it already. He said he wanted me on the panel. Oh yeah, because oh yeah, okay, because I'm in elementary genocide 3, okay, and I definitely want to be a vendor. Definitely want to be a vendor there Friday also, if possible as well.
It doesn't even matter which one you were in.
Right.
People who are knowledgeable, and it's
yes.
About the panel discussion being solely for those folks on the panel, because people open it up to those.
Oh yeah, sure.
On the floor in the room, it's a community discussion.
Absolutely.
Led by the panel discussion.
Absolutely. Okay, so Friday, July 13th, the meet and greet. That's 6:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. And where's that going to be? Where's that going to be?
6 to 9:30 at the Mega World Event Center.
Okay,
3951 Snapfinger Parkway in Decatur, Georgia, which is about 10 minutes outside of Atlanta. Okay,
and then Saturday is the main event. And give us the times on Saturday. It's taking place at the Georgia Piedmont Technical Center, Technical College Conference. Give us the times on Saturday.
That will be from 9 a.m. Doors open at 8:30, and we will go to 8 o'clock. So we're talking about a 12-hour intensive day. Information.
Right.
Bring your notebook. Bring everything that you need. Bring your family.
Right.
And just be ready to put in some work. Because although there's a lot of fellowshipping, a lot of building, a lot of exchanging information, because we have people at all stages. It's not just for people who homeschool. So I want to make that statement.
Go ahead.
It's about us empowering ourselves to educate our own. And with that, we are all at different stages, different lengths of the journey. It's going to look different for different families. However, like I said, we're dealing with this to sift through our own stuff and begin to look through an African world view of
Yes.
how to educate our children. That's critical before anything else takes place.
Absolutely.
And
What?
it's a sacred space of healing, you know, it's a sacred space that we can come together and address our issues that specifically affect our family. If we're not dealing with those things, then it's really not education.
Right, right. Well, you know, power is the ability to define and shape reality and have other people accept your definition of reality as if it were their own, as Dr. Wade Noble's taught us. And you know, one of the things that you deal with is how educating our own has the ability to permeate through all of our issues in the African American community and begin to change the mental, physical, and spiritual paradigm as we know it. Talk about that for a minute.
Well, you know, when we deal with, you know, educating our own, we're talking about more than just the academic. This is key for our people because a lot of times we're trying to match up, even in homeschooling, we're trying to match up with the public school is doing. And so recognizing that our ancestry, when we come from our ancestral point of view, we're talking about shifting the whole makeup of our DNA. We're talking about things that have been passed on intergenerationally, healing from those things. We're talking about imprinting the mind, body, and spirit with something new that is really old. You know what I mean? Something that we're bringing it back into fruition that has always been with us, is tapping into who we are and our greatness. So with each workshop, it's not just dealing with it from a mortal standpoint, but also from a spiritual standpoint. And that we're really not accustomed to that within the educational process. So this is a very different look, a very different feel. The different presentations and the things that we dive into will go a little bit deeper. Like we have one workshop called Contextual Science. And it talks about how no matter what it is that we're dealing with, whatever it is that we're studying in the classroom, we have to bring it to a place of relevancy and not just in life, but in our lives.
Okay.
And so when we bring it to a place of relevancy, then we can see how can we use the science. So what's the sense of having known, you know, the periodic table and you're not using it in any way? What's the point? So we can see how it fits into life, how it fits into, you know, the solutions in our community. Then it has purpose and it has mission, it has force.
Right, exactly. Okay, so education from an African-centered perspective is much different than from a Western perspective. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. So we have most of the workshops and things like this taking place on Saturday. People can bring their family also. You want to bring a pen and pad to be able to take notes. You're going to get a lot of information. And there'll be vendors. There'll be, yeah, for your baby. Yeah, absolutely. You have workshops and things like this for the children. And then on and most of the vendors will be there on Saturday. On Sunday, you have the economic empowerment forum. Talk about that for a minute, please.
Okay, the Economic Empowerment Forum, we call it the Black Beef Economic Summit. We started off with an all-vegan soul brunch.
Yes.
That's just the beginning part of it. We were more socializing and, you know, have some live entertainment. And then we moved forward into all of the different facets of how we can build our businesses. Many of us, you know, have become entrepreneurs in one way, shape, or form. However, this is about taking our businesses out of the stratosphere, to bringing them to a place where we are able to be sustainable within our divine purpose of what it is we're supposed to be doing. So with that, we always have a lot of great ideas, and we know, you know, African people, we're some of the most creative people and innovative people on the planet, but understanding how to work within this construct from marketing to understanding the spiritual side of business, because that's something that, you know, from a Eurocentric point of view, that's not really utilized. So these are strengths that we can draw on, that we've always, you know, utilized, and tools that we've always utilized, you know, to make us successful in creating the intergenerational wealth that we've had for a multitude of years prior to the colonialism and all of those things. So it's time to really regain our rightful place, as I always say, you know, educate our children to be conscious millionaires and billionaires. Not to have money, but understand that there's a mission and purpose and things we have to do to build up our community, and there's a social responsibility and accountability that we have to our people with what we choose to do with our business.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have to have that consciousness, and African history and culture gives you your foundation, gives you your VIPs, your values, your interests, and your principles, and that influences your economic empowerment and influences your political empowerment as well. Okay, now what's the time? What's the time on Sunday for the for everything taking place?
Sunday we will be there. We'll be there from 10 to 6.
Okay.
Sunday.
Okay.
A little bit of a short of a day, because folks are still struggling from the day before.
You ain't lying. You ain't lying. Right. Okay.
They're coming in eating a big old plate of food and set it off. So it's like, we'll be there from 10 to 6. And
right.
It's going to be going strong with a multitude of workshops, including your presentation.
Yeah.
Really, I love, because a lot of your presentations, they really dive into the details of things.
Right.
To connect the dots with everything else that we're seeing, and you really lay a great fabric of the content of what
right.
you're doing all this thing.
Oh, thank you.
A lot of times it's missing.
Right.
So, we'll be having, I can go on with a host of workshops, but the economic summit, I feel, is just powerful, because when we talk about educating our own, of course, economics is right there with it. I think without the spirituality and the economic, the
right.
education doesn't really exist.
Yeah, you have to have the economic portion. Absolutely. Now, what time am I speaking on Sunday? Do you know yet?
You are speaking, I want to say at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
At 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
1 p.m.
Right after the front. You're one of the first people that will be speaking.
Okay. And my presentation is dealing with the film Black Panther. The name of my presentation is called Lessons from the Film Black Panther, Economic Guerrilla Warfare, Political Self-Defense, and How to Wakanda the Vote. Okay, so that's my presentation. I have it on DVD. We'll have it there at the conference for sale, because I have a vendor table. It's also available at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com if you can't make it. Okay, so let's see. That you're going to have. Go ahead. Go ahead.
On Sunday, we'll have a multitude of vendors as well.
Yeah.
We have some vendors that will be there Sunday that were not there Saturday. And then we have there, that Saturday that won't be there from Saturday. So it's a little bit of both.
Right.
But we do have Cecilia from Cecilia's Raw Reality. She'll be doing the keynote on Sunday, talking about the 777. And she'll be diving into the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, the 7 principles of Black, the 7 laws of economics.
Okay.
And how they all connect, how that comes together. We have Brother TJ Lawson.
Yeah.
The education that we're dealing with in our community. How do we leverage ourselves within that experience so that we can not just create generational wealth within that we don't necessarily have to be.
Right.
We also have we're talking about doubling your income within your business within 90 days. And it's not one of them little gimmicky things you hear online.
No, he's good. Right. He's good. Uncle Coop. Yeah. I've seen him. I have a degree in business administration, so I know BS when I hear it, but Uncle Coop, man, he has some good information. He has some good information, seriously. Yeah, you have Rick Mathis also, film director Rick Mathis, Black Friday series.
And we'll be on the panel discussion. You'll be on the panel. We have the whole panel discussion on Sunday, just like we have on Friday.
Yeah.
And we'll just be dealing with our issues within economics. And it will be very dynamic because of the diversity on the panel. We have Mama Afia, Nati Moyo. They're doing some phenomenal things within economics, but it's real quiet. It's very hush.
Yes.
So, there's a lot of things that we need to do on the hush.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
We'll be recognizing some of them. There'll be some of our honorees. We have 4 honorees this year, and each year we plan on just honoring our different people within this work. And because it's a lot of work, and a lot of times we don't honor ourselves.
Absolutely.
So we have to make sure that we're giving that love and that support. So I just encourage everyone to come out. They can go to the website, which is www.liberatedmindsexpo.com. That's liberatedmindsexpo.com. They can send an email, liberatedmindseducation@yahoo.com, or they can also reach out at 678-368-8593. If you don't have the funds, there's no reason not to come. You can volunteer for 4 hours and come to the home conference for free.
Say that again. Say that again.
If you don't have the funds, there is absolutely no reason to come. There's no excuse. So don't use it as an excuse. Well, I don't have the money. If you want to be there, if you want to see change, if you really be able to, get the successful outcome and define success for yourself and for your children and for your family, redefine it through our eyes and be able to, just weed out a lot of the stuff that hasn't been working. If you're serious about it, because a lot of times we talk about it,
right?
And we give excuses. So money cannot be the excuse. So you donate 4 hours of your time, and you have 3 days. 3 days that you can come and take part in the conference.
Wow.
I mean, you're really not going to miss out on much. And some people are just volunteer first thing, like right off the jump. 7:30 to 11:30. I'm on that first shift, and they got the rest of the weekend to just really be intense and in the mix. And a lot of times, I do want to say, a lot of times people come, they come to the conference with one thing in mind, and they realize when they leave, they got a whole lot more, something totally to the left of what they thought they were coming for. And that's usually how it works. You may be someone you met, there may be another workshop you took that you didn't even know was going on, or just the way things happen organically. Our ancestors, they paved the way.
Right. Let me ask you this.
You want to be there? I said, come on.
Okay. Absolutely. Let me ask you this last question because we only have about 3 minutes left here. You've talked before about how the African-centered education that we give our children has to give them the individualized cultivation of their divine purpose in life. Talk about that, and what does that mean?
So what that means is that when we are educating our children, we shouldn't be educating them to fulfill a career. We should educate them to who they are, their purpose, and mission. We watch them and study them and we utilize the tools that we have. And down to their names, down to the science book, name them. Because a lot of times, what we're doing now with our love is we're birthing our children in the right way. We're doing homework, we're doing natural birth.
Right.
We're feeding them better. The diet is vegetarian and more plant-based. We're doing all the things that are going to raise their vibration and, bring them into a higher state of being. But yet we're giving them, we're trying to educate them the old way. So it doesn't work. So when we're looking at, rearing our children, we look at far back in our ancestry, we always reared them to their divine purpose, to who they were, and that started with their names. And every time we call their names, that is affirming who they are and what they came here to do. But yet when we approach the educational process, we never look at, well, who are they and what did they come to do? So educating their divine purpose is looking at who they are and devising a curriculum. And I say, like I said, whether you're in public school, private school, whatever, all of our children need our definitive curriculums of what we feel they need to know, at the end of a certain period or during a certain, duration of time. We have to define what that is, just like the school system does. That's really what a curriculum is for them. It's just a plan. It's just a plan. So by the time they're in the 3rd grade, we need to make sure that they're not reading so that way we can keep them in this prison pipeline. They have their agenda that they plan out years and years and years in advance, and they know, okay, but by this junction, this is not happening. But 9 times out of 10, down the road, this is going to bring us millions more dollars.
Right.
So we have to have that same worldview, of African worldview, and say, okay, so we got to plan more generations out. Okay, well, if we do this, then a few generations down the road, this is going to bring us more intergenerational wealth. And then study those things that are going to bring us that. And that's really what the Expo is about. It's about studying. Yes. Coming to hang out, have a great time, all that's great. But it's about studying. It's about learning the things that we don't know from each other.
Right, and internalizes information, actually use it, okay? So once again, everybody, the website is liberatedmindsexpo.com, liberatedmindsexpo.com. Yours truly will be there. I'm there all 3 days. I'm there each year. This takes place the 3rd weekend in Atlanta. This will be my 6th conference, okay? And I'll be presenting on Sunday as well, also. And then she said that also if you don't have the funds, you can volunteer as well. So you can contact, give them the phone number one more time.
593, and I encourage you, you're not local. We have people that come from all over.
Sure.
The way it's just made. On the we do internationally, A lot of work that we do international, so no matter where you are, we do a lot of traveling, a lot of different cities, and you just never know how it's going to you're always in the loop.
Right.
Homepage, it says go on there, you'll always see whatever it is, the type of product that others in the community are going to share.
Right. All right. Okay, Queen Taese, thanks for coming on tonight, and I will see you this weekend. Okay.
Sounds good. I appreciate you much. Much love to you.
Okay, sister. Asante Sana. All right, peace. All right, LiberatedMindsExpo.com. All right, you listen to the African History Network show, 9:10 AM Superstation, Michael Imhotep, 313-778-7600. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right. Stand by. Everybody. Okay, stand by, guys. All right, so on YouTube, how's everybody doing? So who on YouTube and Facebook that are watching, who's coming to the Liberated Minds Black Homeschooling Education Expo? Who's coming to the expo? I will be there. Come on out. It's fantastic. You have a lot of experts in homeschooling African-American children, especially from an African-centered perspective there. Okay, so we're going to that clip from MSNBC. Okay, got it? All right, thanks. Let's see. Now this is on YouTube, it's the mic on the laptop, not this mic here.
Oh yeah, on Facebook, everything is connected. So when she was on, because I had her microphone on Facebook, they could hear her perfectly.
Oh, they can hear it perfectly good. I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take the video from Facebook and put on my YouTube channel, and also upload that audio to Blog Talk, iTunes, and Castbox to my pages there. All right. Melissa Sapphire. Mikey said Glenn is attempting to deflect. Yeah, I don't even waste time with people like Glenn. Okay, let's see. Jasmine, how you get on her mailing list? Visit LiberatedMindsExpo.com. Visit the website. We posted it here on the thread of the broadcast, LiberatedMindsExpo.com. All right, Erica, how you doing, Erica? Abdul Akil in Detroit, Hotep brother. April said, okay, she's talking to somebody. It's interesting how people talk about the film Black Panther, don't know what they're talking about. Because this is a very, very deep movie if you understand African history, culture, spiritual systems, and the Black Panther comic book, which most people don't understand all four of those things. Okay. So when I break down the film to them, I break down the African culture, African cultural influence. I mean, first of all, you know, what does the word Wakanda mean? Yeah, because I asked the detractors this, they have no clue. Wakanda is a real word. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It's Sunday, July 8th, 2018. We just finished talking to Queen Taese, co-founder and co-organizer of the 7th Annual Liberated Minds Black Homeschooling Education Expo, taking place in Atlanta, July 13th through the 15th, 2018. I will be there for that, and I'm presenting Sunday also. All right, let's see, in our first segment, we were dealing with the topic. We've seen the viral videos, we've seen the fallout of it. White people keep calling the police on African Americans and now are losing their jobs, receiving backlash and public shame. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to Al, line 2. Hey, Al, welcome to the African History Network show. Thanks for calling in.
And what was up with that guy who something?
Hey man, I don't waste time with people like that, brother.
Yeah, I know. But you thought,
Yeah, I know.
I'm just trying to figure out what did you get out of it. I know we got those things early on Monday, but I don't personally like. Since I remember you was on the Power Network. I followed your, I don't know if it was any podcast shows that you used to do, but all the information that you do is always factual.
Right. See, when people call in like that, man, I already know he ain't calling with any facts, because he has none. So he calls in with some nonsense. So I don't even deal with people like that. Go ahead.
What's your take on stuff maybe going to back to state rights to the Supreme Court, trying to put it back in the hands of the state versus it being in the hands of the government? Because you always hear people say less government, less government. Talk about they want to be more local. What do you think that returns for African American people if we went back to state rights? And I just
okay, so your question is states' rights, and you said something about the Supreme Court. Did you say something about the Supreme Court?
Yeah, I'm thinking with the new, if you get another conservative type mind or federalist, I think they're gonna try to push a lot of stuff back into the hands of the state. I know a lot of the stuff is in the hands of the state right now. I'm just thinking the mindset of the court, they're gonna try to put a lot of this back in the hands of the state. And if the states are controlled more through Republicans or more conservative, how is that going to affect the African American?
Oh, it's going to be negative, because the Civil War, I mean, the Confederate States were claiming states' rights during the Civil War. When they seceded from the Union, so states' rights were declared. This was declared during the fight, during the Civil Rights Movement, and they're claiming states' rights to have segregation, fighting against the federal government. So states' rights is as we have known it, has usually been a negative for African Americans. The Supreme Court was a place, because of Brown versus Board of Education, May of 1957, because of that Supreme Court decision, that let us know that we could go to the highest court in the land and get the Constitution enforced, because we were understanding that segregation was against the U.S. Constitution. So, and then when Brown versus Board of Education, when that case was decided, then you see the next year, the Montgomery bus boycott starts December 5th, 1955, but February 1st, 1956, you see the lawsuit of Browder versus Gale filed, which was part of that bus boycott. That comes out of that whole Montgomery Improvement Association movement. And these were 4 African-American women, Aurelia S. Browder, Claudette Colvin, Susie McDonald, and Mary Louise Smith, who refused to give up their seats on the buses as well. And they sued Mayor William A. Gale of Montgomery, Alabama. They sued the police chief and members of city council. They sued the Montgomery Bus Lines, Inc. This case goes all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. So we understood that and the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in their favor. They ruled that segregation on the buses in Montgomery, Alabama was unconstitutional. So we understood that we had to take things out of the local courts, out of the federal court, out of the state court, and take it to the U.S. Supreme Court, okay? Because we were fighting against states' rights. When you study the civil rights movement, that was one of the things we were fighting against. We were fighting against states' rights, okay? So it'll have a devastating impact, all right? Is Al still there?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, the reason why I brought that up is because you always hear people talk about, less government. The first thing I think of is states' rights. I'm like, you don't want to put it in the hands of the state, because if you even look in terms of what happened in Flint, you have an emergency manager, it's not beneficial to the average Joe person on the street, especially people of color, because a lot of times people take sides, and as my father always says, you don't want to be in the midst of people trying to pick winners and losers. and that maybe not be good for you at all. So
Right.
I want to leave it there. Thank you.
Okay, Al. All right, thanks for calling. All right, let's go to Olaf, line 3. Thanks for holding. Welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from.
Thank you, bro. I'm coming from Detroit, the Brightmore neighborhood.
Okay, go ahead with your question or comment.
Yes, sir. Brother, I wish you had me out for a minute. What can we do to get rid of these weak, spineless Democrats? I'm a Democrat, brother.
Okay.
Now, don't get me wrong. I've been a Democrat all my life, 45 years.
Sure.
Well, what can we do to get some of these weak, spineless Democrats like Nancy Pelosi, scary ass Chuck Schumer, dumbass Debbie Dingell, dumb Danny Staminoff, and some of these local black politicians here in Detroit, one of Sherry Dumb Magnolia, Howard ass, Coleman Young Jr., because they won't fight for us. When can we get some strong soldiers?
Well, okay.
Like a Maxine Waters or the Indian woman down there in Massachusetts, the Pocahontas woman, or Stacey Abrams
in Georgia. Right.
Yeah. Or a real fight like the Muslim brother in Minnesota. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Ellison.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, my man.
Yeah. Okay.
We need to get, brother, I think you're a Democrat like me. Why can't we get rid of these weak, spineless Democrats to make our party strong? Look at the Republicans, brother.
Right.
Stick together.
Well, they have been fighting. They have been fighting amongst Republicans. They have been fighting amongst Republicans also. Let me ask you a question. Thanks for calling. No, they have been fighting amongst Republicans also. All right. Now, what happens is that you have to run people against those Democrats that you want to get rid of. I'm not a Democrat. I'm neither Democrat nor Republican. Okay, but you want to run people against those people who you're trying to get rid of. If you look at what happened in the district in New York, you see the sister, I think her last name is Cortez, 28 years old, Democratic Socialist. She unseated a staunch Democratic and Republican, a staunch Democratic incumbent who had been there 10 terms. He's a member of the House of Representatives, so the term is 2 years. And she unseated him, okay? Now, there was low turnout in the district, but also she knocked on doors. She had a lot of volunteers. They believed in her, and they unseated him because her issues resonated more with the people. She's more progressive. Her issues resonated more with the people and more with the demographic makeup and the racial makeup, basically, of people in that district. And some of these districts have a changing in the demographics. This is something that, even though Georgia is not a district, it's a state, this is something that Stacey Abrams has talked about in Georgia, who's running for governor, who's the Democratic nominee for governor in the state of Georgia. And she's talked about the change in the demographics that's taking place, the change in the ethnic makeup and racial makeup of Georgia over the past, few years or so, over the past few elections. Okay. All right, let's go to John, line 1. Hey, John, welcome to the African History Network show. Thanks for holding. Tell us where you're calling from.
Okay, hey, listen, not only keep students in New York, keep students silent. Keep your old friends on power.
Yeah.
President Barack Obama,
Mm-hmm.
And the lady in Georgia, she got a good chance of winning too.
Yeah, Stacey Abrams, yeah. Yeah, now people need to come out and vote for Stacey Abrams. They need to come out and vote for her. Seriously, don't sit at home. I'm serious. You gotta come out and vote for her.
And I'm glad you tell them that.
Yeah.
And you talk about the Democrats, like you said, you got to run somebody against them.
Yeah, you have to run people against it. Even if it's an incumbent, even if it's a Democratic incumbent, you can run somebody against them.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
engine is off.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I told people, if you look at the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee, you look at what their finding was that was released this past week. I told you that 2 years ago during the campaign. I told you that I don't know how much money they spent. I could have saved them a whole lot of money. I told you that Russia was involved. I told you that Russia wanted Donald Trump to win. I told you about the Russian hacking. I read the CrowdStrike report and the Fidelis report when they came out back around July, August of 2016. I read those back then. Those were 2 of the 4 cybersecurity companies that the Democratic National Committee hired to find out what happened, to find out the intrusion. I read their reports 2 years ago. When was this? When was this? When was this? When was this?
When you talking to them about the African and what the people that the history of African American in America.
Oh yeah.
And the Native American deal with them and so forth. And he go on with you about that. He didn't have confidence in you talking about it.
Yeah, I don't worry about people like that. All they have to do is research my sources that I give you. Yeah, and all you got to do is research this, and you'll come back and we'll be in agreement. That's all. Yeah. You know. Okay. Oh, go ahead with your last point, John.
Well, I just want to know that you do what Baker and the rest of them getting that he's run a two-part system for the rich and the working class in the city. And it's all over the issues. I guess you agree with it so forth.
Right,
so
right.
I just want to know if you feel that
I didn't see that article right there, man, but I'll have to check that out. But okay, but thanks for calling, John. All right, thanks for calling. All right, so 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. If you have a question or comment, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. All right, listen to the African History Network show. This is Michael Imhotep. All right, so in our first hour, we were talking about white people calling the police on African Americans, basically for doing nothing. And you have the case of Janelle Bynum in Oregon, okay? Member of the State House of Representatives. And she had the police called on her also. All right, let's go to this clip here from Ali Velshi, MSNBC.
Black Americans living their lives and having cops called on. There was a student at Yale who was just napping, an 8-year-old girl selling water. And this week, a state lawmaker who was going door to door and meeting with constituents. A neighbor called 911 on her saying she was suspicious. The deputy responded, clearly disagreed, and they took this selfie. Joining me now is that lawmaker, Oregon State Representative Janelle Bynum, who is up for re-election this year. She was elected first in 2016. And I should just point out, before we get over our heads, the woman who called the police on you has apologized, and you pointed out that the deputy, the sheriff, was very courteous to you.
He was extremely courteous, which is the point of my post.
However, you have also mentioned, you said, look, you're not sure that it's because you were black that the police were called on you. You're guessing it was, or people were guessing it was. But your race did play a role in how you responded to the officer. And this is, yes, I think, a key thing that a lot of Americans have to think about.
Yeah, I knew that my interaction with him was going to determine a few things. Number one, whether I was going to continue to be able to campaign, whether I was going to continue to be able to go home safely at night, whether I was going to feel comfortable in my neighborhood again. everything hinged on that interaction with the officer. Everything.
Meaning, if you were going to be able to feel comfortable in the neighborhood again, if this went south, you were going to end up, everybody was going to see this differently. You were going to now be seen as somebody who felt targeted in your own neighborhood, suspected just by virtue of the fact that you're Black.
Right. I mean, I think for African Americans, especially those of us who feel very accomplished, you really want to limit your interactions with law enforcement that are negative. You know, you want to do, like my kids did the police camp a couple of weeks ago. I went and toured our Multnomah County jail. Like those types of interactions are good. The ones where you're stopped, those can go any way.
You had posted on Facebook, you said, let's be better neighbors. What does that mean? How are we all supposed to be better neighbors? You know, the person who called the authorities on you said that you were going door to door and you were typing on your cell phone and it seemed suspicious. How do we do the whole neighborhood watch, be aware of what's going on, see something, say something, and yet not sort of allow our prejudices to take hold?
Well, first of all, I think there's a difference between vigilance and paranoia. Right. And so we should all be looking out for our neighborhood and our neighbors. But, you know, my family comes from South Carolina, and one of the things that we do is we speak to everybody. And so that day, I remember speaking to the little boy at the house. He said hi, and I think it was a very genuine interaction. And what I asked of my constituent was that maybe she just took a few minutes to come over and say hi and ask what I was doing. I didn't think I was being suspicious, but I don't know what her life experience has been. I don't know if, you know, they've had break-ins in the area. You know, I talked to, 60 houses in that area and nobody mentioned crime. I did later find out that mailbox crime was an issue, but I wasn't going to mailboxes, so I'm not sure.
Okay. All right, so that was Ali Velshi, MSNBC. And that was State Representative Janelle Bynum, Oregon State Representative Janelle Bynum. And there have been a number of stories written about this as well. She's just going door to door campaigning, just like white politicians do. And she gets the police called on her. Very interesting. All right. Okay, so also check out this article from NBCnews.com, #While calling police on Black people become teachable moments for law enforcement as well. All right, check that out also. Then you had the story, HuffingtonPost.com had this article, Permit Patty lied about calling the cops, audio reveals. Permit Patty. So we all remember this story. It was in San Francisco. A couple weeks ago, we heard about an African-American girl, 8 years old. She was selling water. Police were called on her by a woman who became known as Permit Patty. Her name is Allison Ettel. Okay. And the call lasted roughly 20 seconds. Now, she was interviewed by Huffington Post last week, Allison Ettel, and she said that she just pretended to call the police. Well, the San Francisco Police Department released the 911 call, and come to find out she actually did call the police. Okay, and on the call, she says, quote, "I have someone who does not have a vendor permit that's selling water across from the ballpark," end quote. Okay, so she lied and says she did not really call the police when she really did call the police. Patty, why'd you do it? Why'd you lie, Patty? I don't understand this. So after the dispatcher transfers her to someone at the police department, however, the line goes dead. It's unclear if Allison Ettel hung up or if the dispatcher ended the call before the transfer was completed. Okay. And she said that Allison Ettel has since publicly apologized for the incident. Okay. And she said, quote, "This has no racial component to it. She's white. The young girl and the girl's mother were African-American. It was the girl's mother who filmed the encounter." Okay. And what Allison Ettel was saying is that the girl was outside of outside on the sidewalk. The mother and the daughter lived there in the complex there. And she said, quote, they were screaming about what they were selling. It was literally nonstop. It was every 2 seconds, come and buy my water. It was continuous, and it was not a soft voice. It was screaming. She said, I had been putting up with this for hours, F-O-R, for hours, and just snapped. All right. So the girl's mother's name is Erin Austin. She told multiple news outlets afterward that her daughter was selling water bottles outside the family's home in a bid to raise money for a trip to Disneyland. Austin, the mother, told NBC News she also recently lost her job. Okay. Now, after Austin's video of Allison Eto calling the police went viral, Eto is also out of a job. She resigned as CEO of Treatwell Health, which sells cannabis-infused medical products, saying it was in the best interest of the company. Wow. All right. We're coming up on a break. Hey, you listen to the African History Network show, 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes.
910 AM Superstation.
All right.
Giving you exactly what you need.
Back in 2 minutes, guys. Don't go anywhere. Back in 2 minutes. Everybody share this broadcast. Invite your friends to tune in. Okay, so when we come back, you know what? I need to send you this. I need to send you this clip here. This is from what the hell just happened? This is MSNBC. This is dealing with this is dealing with affirmative action. All right, let me shoot this clip to you. Okay. And that was what'd you say?
Did you send it off?
No, I'm sending now. All right, stand by, guys. We'll be back in a minute here. Hold on. All right, I just sent it to you. Okay, how's everybody doing? On Facebook and all right. So you all can sign up for the online courses I teach also. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. It's a 14-hour, 7-session online course. Deal with thousands of years of history. Video playback was interrupted. How's video playback interrupted? Okay. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. All right, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Okay, so, you know, last week we talked some about what was going on at the Mexican border, and we see that the Trump administration really does not have a real viable plan to reunite the children with the families. And We also saw last week, Saturday, what was that, the July 1st, we saw that 2,047 children were still separated from their parents. A little more than 500 have been reunited. Now, AtlantaBlackStar.com had a really good article. Black immigrants remain a silent minority. Black immigrants remain a silent minority, but their deportation numbers speak volumes, okay? And last Saturday was June 30th, okay, if I'm correct. So in this article by Cecilia Smith, right, it talks about how how Black immigrants are treated harsher, even undocumented immigrants are treated, Black undocumented immigrants are treated even worse than undocumented immigrants from other countries. And she says that for those drawn to Trump's ability to tell it like it is, he's doing exactly what they expected him to do, following months of rhetoric that included calling Hispanics rapists, describing Haiti and African countries as S-hole countries, and telling Fox News that Muslims are, quote, a group of people that are very sick, end quote. We saw a couple of weeks ago his Muslim travel ban passed, okay. You had 5 of the 7 countries that were predominantly Muslim countries, all right. And we know during the campaign, he said he was going to call for a ban of Muslims coming to this country till we could figure what was going on. He demonized a religion, an entire religion of people. Okay, he demonized the entire religion of people. Now, America's immigration system has changed, and the cost of the ongoing political war is mounting for non-natives currently living in the country. And while the Hispanic community sits in the crosshairs of the Trump administration's push for an immigration overhaul, others have been affected as well. And that includes Black immigrants, okay, which don't get talked a lot about unless you listen to African-American programming, unless you listen to maybe a Joanne Reed on MSNBC. Reverend Al Sharpton will talk about this as well. But largely when these conversations come up dealing with undocumented immigrants, African undocumented immigrants, their plight is not talked about. Okay, so that includes Black immigrants, which Pew Research, the Pew Research Center estimated had reached a population of 3.8 million by 2013, 3.8 million by the year 2013. And this is 4 times the amount documented in 1980. Okay, now Black immigration has climbed steadily since the 1960s, thanks in part to the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, that also created a new category for political refugees seeking asylum in the United States. Now, political asylum is not illegal. Seeking political asylum is not illegal, okay? Now, the Trump administration is trying to criminalize it, trying to criminalize those who are seeking political asylum. But that's based upon international law, based upon international treaties that the U.S. was involved in crafting. Okay, look at the article from Vox.com, Vox.com, June 5th, 2018. Trump keeps making it harder for people to seek asylum legally. Trump keeps making it harder for people to seek asylum legally. Now, for them to say he keeps making it harder for them to seek asylum legally, that should tell you that political asylum is legal. There's a legal process for that. It's legal to seek asylum at an official border crossing, but border agents are blocking people from getting that far. This is stuff taking place under the Trump administration. Okay. And about 3 weeks ago, the Trump administration was blasted by the United Nations because they said that the Trump administration is violating international law based upon international treaties, denying people the ability to claim political asylum. All right, read this article from Vox.com. Trump keeps making it harder for people to seek asylum legally. It's legal to seek asylum at an official border crossing, but border agents are blocking people from getting that far. If we go back to the article from AtlantaBlackStar.com, Black immigrants remain a silent minority, but their deportation numbers speaks volumes. Prior to 1965, prior to the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, the flow of immigration was based on the country of origin. The country of origin. The result of the Emergency Quota Act of 1921. The Emergency Quota Act of 1921 that essentially gave preference to European nations. Imagine that. Predominantly white country giving preference to European nations. Doesn't that sound like Donald Trump? Why don't we, why we have all these people coming from these S-hole countries like African nations, Haiti and El Salvador? Why don't we have more people coming from Norway? Doesn't that sound like Trump? Now, this legislative loophole, the Emergency Quota Act of 1921, allowed up to 51,227 Germans to enter the U.S. after its passage, while African countries were limited to just 1,100, a biased quota system that President John F. Kennedy once described as intolerant. So the Emergency Quota Act of 1921, which was voted into law basically by all white men, this gave preference to European nations. This allowed 51,227 Germans to enter the U.S. after its passage, while African nations were limited to just 1,100 immigrants to come into this country. Now, the 1965 Immigration and Nationality Act would help shift America's demographics as more immigrants from African and Caribbean nations started migrating into the United States. Now, the Center for American Progress breaks the demographic down as, quote, the largest individual home countries of Black immigrants in the United States today are Jamaica with 693,000 immigrants, Haiti with 654,000 immigrants, Nigeria with 304,000, Ethiopia with 237,000, and Trinidad and Tobago with 171,000, okay? These are the largest individual home countries of Black immigrants in the United States. But with the Muslim ban, now the official law of the land, those fleeing persecution of militant attacks in countries like Somalia are now unable to enter the country legally because they're fleeing horrific conditions in their countries. Now, as the New York Times recently remarked, quote, there is no escape to America, end quote, while previous generations of immigrants were welcomed by the Statue of Liberty's declaration of give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, others have found a less welcoming version of America. Others have found a less welcoming version of America. Sharing his own experience with the New York Times, Mahmoud Noor, N-O-O-R, who's a Somali American activist, reacted to the recent Supreme Court ruling by explaining, quote, I think we were expecting the Supreme Court would stand on moral grounds, end quote, okay? Now, when we look at Black immigrants from Somalia and Libya, the only African nations among the list of 7 countries on Trump's recent Muslim ban, okay, that was approved by the Supreme Court, they now find the door to the U.S. entry barred or shut to them, but many foreign born Blacks already in the United States face the threat of deportation because of a separate immigration directive from the Trump administration. Okay, many foreign born Blacks already in the United States face the threat of deportation because of a separate immigration directive by the Trump administration. All right, it's called temporary protected status. Okay, now temporary protected status designations currently give shelter in the United States to more than 400,000 immigrants fleeing strife and natural disasters in their native countries, all right? Temporary protected status beneficiaries hail from nations ranging from South Sudan to El Salvador, and some 58,000 Haitians face deportation within a year in the wake of the Trump administration's refusal to renew protections to nationals from Haiti that is still reeling from the effects of the 2010 Haiti earthquake. So we just heard a few months ago that they revoked, they're not going to renew their temporary status. The Trump administration is not going to renew the temporary status of these Haitians, and they will be deported in 18 months. Now, in some regards, Black immigrants have fared slightly better than native-born African Americans or Black Americans, including scholastically, where African-born immigrants boast a higher education level than the general US population, thanks in part to an emphasis on STEM courses, science, technology, engineering, and math. To date, nearly 40% hold a bachelor's degree, 40% hold a bachelor's degree. When it comes to race, however, they are nowhere near exempt from the harsh realities of being Black in America, including a president that has previously suggested that Nigerians would not, quote, go back to their huts, end quote, if allowed to entry into the United States. And also he claimed that Haitians, quote, all have AIDS, end quote. So check out the rest of this article here. We don't have time to get to it. It's from AtlantaBlackStar.com. Black immigrants remain a silent minority, but their deportation numbers speak volumes, okay? Black immigrants remain a silent minority, but their deportation numbers speak volumes. This is from AtlantaBlackStar.com, July 1st, 2018. Then look at the article from Vox.com, V-O-X, Vox.com, and you can check out the links. You can check out the links in the article also. Trump keeps making it harder for people to seek asylum legally. Political asylum is not illegal. Okay, political asylum is not illegal. The Trump administration is making it very hard to claim political asylum, and they're basically criminalizing people who do, but it's not illegal. It's legal to seek asylum at an official border crossing, but border agents are blocking people from getting that far. This is from June 5th, 2018. So when we look at the money that's being made, right, from detaining these immigrants, right? Look at the Wall Street Journal article from July 2nd, 2018. Trump's immigrant detention plans benefit private prison operators. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that Trump, who Core Civic and Geo Group donated almost $600,000 to his campaign, two of the largest owner-operators of privatized prisons, who would have thought that they would benefit from detaining immigrants? All right. The Trump administration's new push for more federal detention facilities for immigrants awaiting asylum hearings or deportation has brightened the outlook for the country's two largest private prison operators. Tennessee-based Core Civic Inc., which used to be called Corrections Corporation of America, CCA, and Florida-based Geo Group had already been helped by higher federal spending on immigration and customs enforcement. Higher federal spending on immigration and customs enforcement, better known as ICE. Now, the Trump administration is seeking $2.8 billion in the 2019 budget year to increase the number of beds in immigration detention centers to 52,000, 49,500 adult and 2,500 family beds from about 40,000 now, a spokeswoman said. Now, shares in both companies, because both of these companies are publicly traded companies. Core Civic is traded on the New York Stock Exchange. Their stock exchange symbol is CXW. You can look them up, CXW. And you can go to finance.yahoo.com, finance.yahoo.com, and you can do research on Core Civic, because one of the largest shareholders of Core Civic is a investment group. It's a group called the Guardian Group. The Guardian Group. And the Guardian Group, last time I checked, they're also one of the top shareholders in Viacom and Time Warner. Now, isn't it interesting that a company that is basically the #1 shareholder of the largest privatized prison company in the country. They are top shareholders in 2 of the 6 multinational media corporations that control 90% of what you read, see, and hear. Is that just a coincidence? Viacom and Time Warner. Walt Disney, CBS Corp, News Corp, which owns Fox News, News Corp. You have Comcast, which owns NBC and MSNBC. You have Viacom and Time Warner. Viacom owns BET, MTV, and VH1. They control probably about 80% of the music videos shown on the television. When you start connecting the dots, you start saying, huh. So that's what this is about. So an ICE official said it made the request for information on potential facilities and providers, quote, in anticipation of the potential need to house a large number of family units, end quote, after Trump ended his policy of separating children at the southern border. So far this year, Geo Group shares are up 14%, while Core Civic, their shares have risen 4.8%. Okay, you can check out the rest of this article. This is from Wall Street Journal. Trump's immigrant detention plans benefit private prison operators. July 2nd, 2018. Who would have thought? What a coincidence. Then we look at New York Times, June 21st, 2018. The billion-dollar business of operating shelters for migrant children. The billion-dollar business of operating shelters for migrant children. The business of housing, transporting, and watching over migrant children detained along the southwest border is not a multi-million-dollar business. It's a billion-dollar business. The nonprofit organization Southwest Key Programs has won at least $955 million in federal contracts. That's almost $1 billion. The nonprofit does not mean you don't make a profit. I took a class in nonprofit. I've done business consulting for nonprofit. Nonprofit does not mean you don't make a profit. Nonprofit just means the reason why you exist is not to make a profit. A nonprofit organization does not mean they do not make a profit. Do not be confused on this. The nonprofit organization Southwest Key Programs has won at least $955 million in federal contracts since 2015 to run shelters and provide other services to immigrant children in federal custody. Its shelter for migrant boys at a former Walmart supercenter in South Texas has been the focus of nationwide scrutiny, but Southwest Key is but one player in the lucrative, secretive world of the migrant shelter business. Now, this is not from a conspiracy theory website saying it's a secretive world. This is the New York Times telling you Southwest Key is but one player in the lucrative, secretive world of the migrant shelter business. About a dozen contractors operate more than 30 facilities in Texas alone, with numerous others contracted for about 100 shelters in 16 other states. Okay, you got to read this article, 6 pages. I don't have time to get through all this. Read this. New York Times, the billion-dollar business of operating shelters for migrant children. June 21st, 2018. Follow the money. Follow the money. Okay? All right, so, this past week we saw the Trump administration reversing President Obama's initiative when it comes to affirmative action in school admissions. They talked about it on MSNBC. Craig Melvin had 2 experts on dealing with this MSNBC. Let's go to this clip here.
Today that the administration is prepared to abandon an Obama-era policy that called on universities to consider race as an admissions factor. Attorney General Jeff Sessions last fall called on the Justice Department to reevaluate the policies that he believed acted beyond the law and the Constitution. The decision coming as the president is just days away from appointing a new Supreme Court justice who would replace Anthony Kennedy, a swing vote on affirmative action issues. Here with more, NBC News chief education correspondent Rahima Ellis, MSNBC legal analyst Danny Ceballos, and the New York Times reporter Matt Apuzza, who broke this story. Let me start with you, Rahima, because I know that you just got off the phone with the architect of the Obama administration policy. What did she tell you about all of this?
First thing she said was that the law hasn't changed regarding affirmative action. That this was a policy. These were guidelines for schools, colleges, and universities by which they could use to help them as they attempted to implement whatever policies that they had that might make it possible to include more students of color, minority students, into their universities. That this now, basically, according to the person whom I spoke with in the Obama administration, she saw it as a way of just undoing another Obama administration guideline and policy, and that it will be up to colleges and universities to really make any impact. And what was said to me, that the law hasn't changed, and that the Supreme Court, and Danny can help me with this, that on two different occasions recently in the last 5 years, 2016 and 2013, the Supreme Court affirmed that colleges and universities do have the right to use race in determining, as one factor, if you will, in determining whether or not a student might be admitted. To your point about this, the importance of the Supreme Court nomination, that may be something that people want to consider. Also, let me mention very quickly that this comes on the heels after Asian American students at Harvard University have filed a lawsuit claiming that race has been used. It's a very
well find its way in front of the Supreme Court. Ceballos, based on what I've read so far, it doesn't sound like there's anything in this policy that's going to compel colleges and universities to change the way that they admit students. Is that right?
Not necessarily, but I would say the Supreme Court over the last decades has upheld affirmative action programs, but when it has expressed increasing skepticism about them, starting with Grutter, now moving on to Fisher. Fisher, the 2016 case of Fisher, reaffirmed that a university could use, that's Grutter v. Bollinger is Michigan. Fisher was University of Texas. There's what we call Fisher 1 and Fisher 2. The most recent was in 2016. And the magic words in there were Kennedy's opinion saying that these policies must be measurable. There must be some calculus so that if they ever come under scrutiny, the court can decide whether or not they were fair or unfair or constitutional or unconstitutional. So that is a challenge to universities going forward, that if you decide to use race as a factor, you must do so in a way that we can come by later on, examine it, scrutinize it, and decide if it was right or wrong.
Matt, what do we know about the timing here, or do we know a whole lot about the timing? Why now?
Well, I mean, this is obviously coming at a moment when conservatives view they see a real opportunity to kind of sweep away the last bits of affirmative action from the educational process. And I think if what you're hearing right now, if that sounds confusing, how are we supposed to, as a college admissions counselor, admissions director, how are we supposed to race and how much weight do you give that? If that sounds confusing, it's because it is. And what the Obama administration was trying to do is they were really basically trying to thread the needle and say, here's kind of how you could think about race when it comes to admissions, and offered a bunch of hypotheticals and said, well, maybe you could do this, or you could do that. And effectively what the Trump administration is doing is saying, look, we're just gonna get rid of that. And by getting rid of that guidance, doesn't have the force of law, but it basically tells schools that if you want to be on the right side of the Department of Justice and you don't want a Justice Department investigation or a Justice Department lawsuit, to hew as closely as possible to DOJ guidelines. So they don't have the force of law, but they carry a big stick.
I want to
all right, let's stop it there.
These comments here.
Okay, all right. So that is from MSNBC. Check that out. That is from Craig Melvin. What's the name of that clip here? I want you to check out the rest of that clip. We'll get the name of it for you here. President Trump reportedly rolling back Obama-era guidelines on race in college admissions. President Trump reportedly rolling back Obama-era guidelines on race in college admissions. Okay, and we'll post this on the thread of our broadcast also. And be sure to visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and you can register for the online courses I teach. We have them in the bundle pack. We have 10-course bundle pack. It includes ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Okay, 15-hour 7-session online course. There's a lot of bonus content. The 10 courses in the bundles on sale now, $60, regularly $130. We also have the 60 Black Panther bundle pack, includes 3 of my presentations with the film Black Panther and 3 other presentations. That's on sale, $45, regularly $75. Okay. All right. Check out the article from New York Times. Trump officials reverse Obama's policy on affirmative action in schools. Trump officials reverse Obama's policy on affirmative action in schools. We saw on Saturday in Chicago, we saw thousands of anti-violence protesters march along a Chicago interstate highway, shutting down traffic to draw attention to the gun violence that's claimed hundreds of lives in some of the city's poorest neighborhoods, and pressure public officials to do more to stop it. Marchers chanted "Stop the killing" and carried signs reading "We need jobs" and other messages. Some stopped to scrawl on the road with chalk, "Enough is enough," peace. Toward the front of the march, the Reverend Father Michael Flager, a Roman Catholic priest on the city's south side who organized the protest, Chicago Police Superintendent Andy Johnson, and the Reverend Jesse Jackson linked arms. Okay, read the rest of this at AtlantaBlackStar.com. Protest draws thousands who are demanding more be done about Chicago's gun violence. All right. We also saw this past week that the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee released their findings. Senate panel upholds finding that Russia backed Trump, contradicting the House Representatives Intelligence Committee. Read this article from thehill.com, Hill. They have a lot of good political news there. Senate panel upholds finding that Russia backed Trump, contradicting House. This was July 3rd, 2018. The U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee has unequivocally upheld the conclusion of the intelligence community that Russia developed a, quote, clear preference, end quote, for then candidate Donald John Trump in the 2016 election and sought to help him win the White House. Now, they had staffers, they had access to classified information, they had a budget, all this, and they came to this conclusion. I told you this 2 years ago. I don't have a budget. I don't have staffers. I don't have access to classified information. I don't have people. I don't have a team doing research for me. I told you this 2 years ago during the campaign. The assessment announced in an unclassified summary released on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, represents a direct repudiation of the committee's counterpart in the House of Representatives and of President Trump himself, who has consistently rejected assertions that Moscow sought to bolster his candidacy through its election interference, okay? So the committee has spent the last 16 months reviewing the sources, tradecraft, and analytic work underpinning the intelligence community assessment and sees no reason to dispute the conclusions, said Chairman Richard Burr, who's a Republican senator from North Carolina. He said this in a statement. Read this article, because this contradicts what a lot of these idiotic callers call in and talk about with no facts, haven't done no research. Half of them can't read. No, this is a bipartisan committee of Republicans and Democrats in the U.S. Senate, in the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee, who came to this conclusion based upon reviewing the facts, based upon reviewing the evidence, not based upon sitting up watching Fox News all day. Okay, all right. We're out of time here, but read about the Civil Rights Act. Maybe we'll get to this in a couple of weeks when I get back. Civil Rights Act of 1964, history.com, official website of the History Channel. We know July 2nd was the anniversary of President Johnson signing the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which ended segregation in public places and banned employment discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. We didn't fight for the Civil Rights Act because we wanted to sit down on the toilet next to white people. These are people who don't understand history. This was dealing with banning, this also dealt with banning employment discrimination, okay? And this was one of the crowning legislative achievements of the civil rights movement. It was first proposed by President John F. Kennedy. It survived strong opposition from Southern members of Congress and was then signed into law by Kennedy's successor, President Lyndon Baines Johnson, July 2nd, 1964, right? And also when we look at affirmative action, now, has Trump spoken out against affirmative action for white people? When you have like legacy affirmative action, so you get points. See, when you apply to college, do you fill out the application? Well, different parts of that application, it's a point system, usually totals up to 100. So if you are the son or daughter of somebody who graduated from that institution, and in some cases, even the grandchild, right? You get a certain number of points. University of Michigan, Tim Wise talked about this. There was a debate about civil rights. Google Tim Wise civil rights, Google that, okay? And Tim Wise talked about when the University of Michigan had their debate and that lawsuit was filed, okay? And you had the white woman said she was discriminated against at the University of Michigan. On that application, if you lived in Northern Michigan, you got a certain number of points just for living in Northern Michigan. Are they going to take that away from people who live in Northern Michigan, mainly white people? Are they going to take that away? They're going to take away the legacy, the points you get for being a legacy. So AtlantaBlackStar.com has an article, 11, I think it's 11 facts about affirmative action. 11 facts about affirmative action. Because most people's whole conception of affirmative action is wrong. But if you want to talk about real affirmative action, we can talk about affirmative action white people have for 246 years when they enslaved African Americans. We can talk about the theft of 2.3 billion acres of land. We could talk about the redistribution of hundreds of millions of acres of land, like the 1862 Homestead Act, which redistributed 250 million acres of land for over 100 years, mainly to the hands of Europeans. We could talk about the Southern Homestead Act of 1865, which redistributed 45 million acres of land, mainly to Europeans. We could talk about the Dawes Allotment Act of 1887, which redistributed 138 million acres of land. 2/3 of that went to Europeans. So we want to talk about affirmative action. We can have a talk about that, but we can't do it right now. Hey, thanks for listening to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. 9:10 AM, the Superstation, the Future of Radio. Visit AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Stay tuned for Pastor Mo. Remember, right now is correct wrong behavior. Talk to you next time. Wakanda forever. Talk to you next time. Peace.
Keeps it real.
I would have.
All right, gotta get out of here, guys. All right, thanks for tuning in. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Hey, if you like this type of information, you could donate to the African History Network also. That helps us travel, get to these different locations I have to get to, because most of the stuff, they don't pay me to travel. PayPal.me/the AHN show, PayPal.me/the AHN show. Okay, you could donate there, and that helps out. That helps out a lot. All right, and you can also order our DVD lectures at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com and sign up for the online courses that I teach as well. All right. Okay, look, we got to get out of here. Did Pastor Mo come in? I didn't see him. Okay, we got to get out of here. There's another show coming up. And I'll be broadcasting on Monday. I'm traveling on Tuesday, headed to Atlanta. All right, but I'll be broadcasting Monday. Okay, and you can email me at customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com if you want to know about advertising with the African History Network also. Okay, email me at customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com if you want to know about advertising with the African History Network also. Okay, got to get out of here. Talk to y'all later. All right, stop this. And y'all can come on in. Come on in.